Hi there, so this is the weekend review. This is going over some of the performances for what took my eye over the weekend. Mainly be focusing at Goodwood with one race as well from Newmarket, and of course going back over the meeting as well from Glorious Goodwood over the 5 days there. We'll look at Saturday's action though from Glorious Goodwood first and foremost. And one race to start off with that took my eye, not really going to go into this race in massive detail, was the first race, which was won by Hopewell Rock. It was actually a course record and went 1.67 seconds under standard there. And who knows, Hopewell Rock could even be an Ebor type, maybe, possibly even a horse to take to the Melbourne Cup. George Bow is intimating that afterwards. So very interesting to see what happens with Hopewell Rock, but he's a horse to keep on side, I think, going forward. For 2.25, there was the Glorious Stakes, and this was won by Enfjar, who was stepping up to a mile and a half for the first time, which clearly suited under Ray Dawson, who's riding extremely well this year, in my opinion. But the thing to note about this race is the first two, throughout most of the race, were first and second in the end, and that was Enfjar and Opportunity. Therefore, I thought Al-Azi did really well to come from further back. He finished third there, and I think he was a little bit unlucky. Maybe not to win, but just from where he came from, he found it difficult. It's no criticism necessarily of the jockey, Kieran Fallon, but I do think he was given a bit harder thing to do there in that race there on Al-Azi. But Enfjar was very good, like I said, stepping up to a mile and a half. I thought Opportunity in second, probably now once further than a mile and a half. He just hit a bit of a flat spot. He then stayed on. There was no excuses for him, but I think he wants further, and he's still favourite, I think, for the Ebor after this. I don't think this run would decrease his chances there. I thought he ran really well, but on the day, Enfjar, under a good front-running ride from Ray Dawson, took the spoils there in the Glorious Stakes at 2.25. The Lila Langtree was next, and this was a really exciting finish between Goody Two Shoes, Santorini Star, and indeed Wardar, who finished third, who won the race last year. Just a couple of notes I made on this. Danielle, who ended up finishing last, and Consent, who finished only just a bit in front of her. I don't think both of them handled the ground, especially Danielle. I think she really does need the mud. And I think they wanted to run her in this basically because they hadn't run her for a while since York. She got away with it that day when she won against lesser opposition. And today she was shown that Good to Firm isn't to her liking. I think certainly in the autumn, hopefully when the ground turns for her, she'll be of major interest once again, but not on Good to Firm ground. Consent would be similar comments would apply to her. Amelia Earhart, I think, is regressing myself. I don't think she's as good as what people thought when she beat I'm the One at Chester, when I'm the One clearly didn't handle the track. And the fact that she wore headgear as a 2-year-old and she worn it this year as well is never a good sign in my opinion. But this was a fantastic race. I do think Wardar, the third horse who indeed won it last year, was a little bit unlucky. A bit like the 2.25, the Glorious Stakes. Santorini Star was up there throughout. Was extremely game to only go down to Goody Two Shoes by a nose late on. I thought this was a really good ride though by Dylan Brown McMonigal. The gap wasn't coming for him, but when he did open up, he was through it quickly. Didn't panic when there was no gaps for him to take, but that was a really good ride on Goody Two Shoes. Of course, was placed in the Melbourne Cup last year, so stamina certainly wasn't going to be an issue for that horse there. Like I said, Wardar was a little bit further back, I think, than ideal. Came there, looked like she was going to win the race, but ended up finishing third. I do think she was probably the best horse in the race on the day. And obviously she was second to Estrange at Carlisle earlier in the season, and we know how good Estrange is. But yeah, good performance from Goody Two Shoes. I think Santorini Star ran a fantastic race. It was game as anything, despite just going down to the winner. And she's certainly back on form after not running that well at Royal Ascot, considering they put headgear on. I think she seemed to resent that. I don't really know why they did that, considering how game she is. But Wardar, I think, like I said, is the horse for me to take out of it there in the 3 o'clock. Then we had the big handicap of the week, which was the Stewards Cup, which Evening Saigon won. Very, very glad he did, because I actually backed the horse there, so really glad he did it. But just a note at the start, though, was Two Tribes. He lost all his chance when stumbling out of the stalls, and he couldn't ever have a chance really after that. He couldn't really get back into it from there. So Two Tribes, I'll forget this run. I put a line through that there, but I'm sure that would have been the target all year for him, given he won the race last year. The winner, though, like I said, Evening Saigon, travelled up really well into the race. I think he was a cosy winner, in fairness. Mick Barhy finished off well on the near side. He was first home in his group. But the horse I'd like to mark up here was the 4-horse Completely Random. I think this sharp 6 furlongs on good to firm ground, I think, wasn't seen to his best effect, and he finished off the race really strongly under Ryan Moore. He was, of course, second to Double Rush in the Wokingham at Royal Ascot when he ran really well that day. And I think something possibly like the Ayr Gold Cup might be preferable for him. I don't think he stays 7 furlongs. He showed that at Ascot last time. And like I said, Goodwood to Ascot, I think the standard times is about 3 seconds quicker at Goodwood, which would equate to about 15 lengths, which is a lot. And I think Completely Random on a more stiffer track like Ayr would be more preferable to him over 6 furlongs. Not sure if he's a 7 furlong horse myself after the last run, but he did really well, I thought, on Saturday to finish as well as he did. But take nothing away from the winner, Evening Saigon. I thought he was really good on the day, and under James Doyle, who had a fantastic week there for Wafnan Racing. The 4:10, though, was the handicap there over 7 furlongs, and this was certainly eventful with Ghost Mode. Pretty much going all the way over the track, taking Weir Gooses with him. The thing about this race, though, what I'd like to point out was the draw over 7 furlongs. I think the first few horses home, apart from the horse that finished second in Ironwill, were drawn 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So Ironwill was the only one that broke up those draw by finishing second from stall 10. He was also inconvenienced by Ghost Mode drifting across the course as well. I mean, it was remarkable, but they didn't even call a steward's inquiry after this. I mean, everyone saw how bad it was, and it just shows that you're looking, in my opinion, to call a steward's inquiry. I mean, some of the stewarding we've had this summer for the flat racing has been pretty comical, in my opinion, given what happened to Benvenuto Cellini in the Derby, calling him a non-runner. I think some of the things that have happened this summer have been quite poor, really, from the stewards, and this was another one to not call an inquiry. I don't think Rob Hornby did much wrong. I mean, and he couldn't really control Ghost Mode, who has been a really keen horse in the past as well. He drifted, though, and he couldn't stop him, and in the end it affected Ironwill, who I think is definitely the horse to mark up. Weir Gooses was really well back for the Britannia. He was unlucky again. I'm sure he'll be popular next time, as he should be, really, but Ironwill, I think, ran really well in second, and he's the one for me to take out of the contest there from that 4:10 there on Saturday. Just have a look as well at one race at Newmarket, what we saw on the weekend, and this was won by the beautifully bred Spirited Gesture. This was the second race, I think, on the card. No, the third race. It was the Fillies Novice, and this horse is beautifully bred by Kingman out of Helleborines, which makes a relation to Calix, of course, who was a very good 2-year-old for John Gosden, who won the Coventry for him. Like a few Kingmans, this horse held her head a bit high there, and she did race very keenly throughout, and she was very green as well under Rab Pavlin, but that didn't stop her winning in good style. The time and the form isn't anything to get overexcited about. The second horse, Kia, had only shown, okay form. It's not anything outstanding, but I do think that Spirited Gesture could be a significant improver. And the fact that John Gosden, in the interview afterwards with Anthony Dunkley on Racing TV, was talking about possibly going for the May Hill, I think says everything you need to know, that how highly they think this horse is. And the Gosdens have also won this race with Commissioning a few years ago as well, and she went on to be a very high-class 2-year-old. So I think they could well have a nice filly on their hands here in Spirited Gesture, who, like I said, I think could be a significant improver. Whether they take in a race before the May Hill is open to question. They've certainly got time to, but I think she was very, very good on the day. Like I said, the time and maybe the form isn't anything to get overexcited about, but she did it well there on Saturday, and certainly wanted to point you in her direction moving forward there for the future. Then we had some highlights, of course, though, over the week, and certainly I thought the riding of Dylan Brown McMonigal was worth a mention. He had 4 winners on the week. Joseph O'Brien, of course, also had 4 winners. What a glorious Goodwood meeting he had. I thought Dylan Brown McMonigal's ride that won Defiantly was fantastic in the staying handicap. He certainly took charge on this horse, knew he would stay after running so well in the Ascot Stakes at the Raw meeting there, and he did really well to pull off those tactics there, and he did it in good style. Got everything out of its comfort zone, and by the time the horses were closing in on Defiantly, the race had already been won. So very, very good ride there. He did the opposite on Galen. Well, not the opposite, but was a very good front-running ride on him, judging the pace there to a nicety. There were a few horses that got stuck in behind Galen there. Goody Two Shoes, as we've mentioned, he didn't panic on that one when the gaps weren't there for him to take, but when it opened up, he was there ready to take them. And in good style. Enceladus, he also won on, who was a more of an easier ride. But yeah, very, very good performance there from Dylan Brown at Monagle throughout the week. And anyone who's been watching him ride over the last couple of seasons will know, I think he's the next big thing, the next generational talent, I think, they're moving forward amongst the jockeys. I think he's absolutely outstanding. It does help when you've got Joseph O'Brien's horses to ride, but I think he certainly deserves all the chances he gets, and indeed more, for the way he's riding at the moment. Scandinavia, though, earlier in the week, he was really impressive in the Goodwood Cup. I know Trawlerman got hampered by the loose horse Amalok, but I don't think it would have made any difference to the result. It might have been maybe not as straightforward for Scandinavia in terms of his winning distance. Ryan Mordha was quite amusing afterwards, saying he was disappointed that Scandinavia couldn't catch the loose horse in Amalok in the end. I think it was a really good staying performance. I mean, this horse is going to be very hard to beat now. He's a 4-year-old, he's still improving, and anything that beats him in the staying ranks is going to be, he's going to have to take him down. He's going to have to do it really hard, because this is a very, very good stayer now. I think maybe the only thing that could get him beat is soft ground. I think good ground and quicker than that is quite important to him. I wouldn't necessarily want to back him on soft ground there, but I think he's a really top stayer and can only get better. And he could well do something like what Yates did and try and win 3 or 4 Ascot Gold Cups. He is that good, in my opinion. The race of the week, though, certainly from an enjoyment spectacle, and indeed how exciting it was indeed the Sussex Stakes won by Boeco. I mean, this horse is super talented. I thought Ryan Moore gave Gustard the perfect ride. Boeco on Billy Loughnane gave up first run to him, probably gave Gustard 2 or 3 lengths there, but still he had the turn of foot to run him down and win by half a length going away. I mean, this horse is pretty exceptional, isn't he? And I think he's going to take all the beating in whatever races he turns up in over a mile for the remainder of the season. He's that good. Opera Ballo, he also ran well in third, but the fact he's so keen is the thing that always troubles him. And if he would just learn to settle, I think he could be a serious horse, but unfortunately he doesn't do that there. And yeah, Diamond Necklace as well in the Nassau was very, very good as well. I thought this was probably the performance of the week, really. Friendly Soul, I think, is a really good filly who finished second, but Diamond Necklace just treated her with discontent, really, and kicked her out of the way in pretty dismissive fashion. And I think Diamond Necklace is a really serious filly. I'm not sure whether a mile and a half would be her trip. I think 10 furlongs will be more what she wants. I don't think she's necessarily an arc filly. And personally, I've backed and indeed tipped Kalpana for the Arc de Triomphe already. I think after her King George win, I think she deserves to be a bit shorter in the market. And I wouldn't be backing Diamond Necklace over the mile and a half, given that I don't think she necessarily stay. And Ryan Moore also was saying afterwards that 10 furlongs was her optimum trip as well. It'd be nice to see her possibly in the Juddmonte International against Ombudsman and Constitution River, but I doubt that will happen. But who knows where they'll go with her next. But whatever takes her on as well will find her very difficult to beat there, especially against her own sex. But that's it from me for this week, for the weekend review. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and also check out my Patreon page as well, where you can get more analysis and indeed tips from me on there. So thanks very much for listening, as always.